get everybody in there.
Okay, so this is for, yeah, you have to show all the adults, all 5. Hopefully we'll get through this without them killing themselves. So this is Christina Evans, my persuasive speech, and so we will begin. So this is a persuasive speech about single-use plastic. So according to the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, which is an administration underneath the U.S. government, the ocean regulates our climate. It produces more than half the Earth's oxygen and stores more than 50% of our carbon dioxide. So it also produces our medicine, our food, provides recreation, and employs over 3 million people. So one would think that if we have such an intertwined existence with our ocean, that we would take better care of it. But unfortunately, that's not the case, because we have too many people seem to think that the ocean is big enough to dilute all of the world's trash. But this is certainly not true when we've created something that is not digestible to the earth, which is plastic. So during this presentation, I'm going to talk more about single-use plastic and how we can go about eliminating it. Sit down and be quiet, please. So why is this an issue? Plastic will eventually decompose like everything else, right? But that's not the case, because in the world, there's good bacteria that will decompose everything else, but because we've created carbon and carbon molecules in plastic, our organic decomposers don't know how to digest that. So plastic just continues getting smaller. So for instance, it takes 450 years for plastic to decompose into smaller pieces. So if we have a plastic bottle, it would break down into 10,000 pieces, and then they become what's called nano pieces. So every single plastic bottle that we have will actually last more than 5 times the average human life if you base it off of 80 years for a human life. So that means that our great-great-great-great-grandchildren will be picking up bottles from our generation just from a single plastic water bottle. Go away. We're stuck in a loop. Okay. Oops. Isn't technology great? Sorry. So according to the World Economic Forum, by 2050, there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish by weight, which is only 32 years away. So we'll be old enough, we'll be around to see this. This is not working how I hoped. At least the speech is going. So plastic tends to congregate. We want to know where the plastic goes. So of course it ends up on our beaches, but we tend to have giant garbage patches as well, and they're called gyres. And they end up in those areas there. The ones that we tend to refer to is the West Pacific and the East Pacific gyres, and those are actually twice the size of Texas.
So they accumulate there?
Yeah. The ocean tends to have large cycles.
Current.
The current will go in and put it in like a swirl. And so it tends to accumulate into these patches. And people tend to have the idea that these are more like islands. They're not condensed. It's just a place where the plastic tends to congregate. And these are large, what they call macroplastics, nanoplastics, and micro. Nano is anything, actually, micro is anything smaller than 5 millimeters, and nano becomes anything smaller than that. So just in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch alone, there's 80,000 tons of garbage just now. That's actually 1.8 trillion pieces of garbage. That's equal to 250 pieces of garbage for every single person on the planet. That's a lot. So it becomes, what can we do? One of the things that we can do is support the organizations that are already out there getting their hands dirty. One of the ones that actually Ellery and I support, my husband for the other beers, is 4Ocean. And 4Ocean will actually pick up a pound of plastic and pull out a pound of plastic out of the ocean for every bracelet that you buy. They're going through and they clean up beaches. They also have boats that they go out and they actually pull out the trash and recycle it for us. Another one that's coming up right now is called the Ocean Cleanup. It was made by a 25-year-old kid. It's an enormous prototype that's a giant U that will passively clean up the ocean, which they put it out in the giant, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and it will float through and condense all the trash into a small circle where a boat can come and easily clean it up. And then one of the other ones is Oceana, which is a very large nonprofit organization that's fighting for good government policies to support the ocean.
Mom, I have a question.
Hold on, sweetheart. Let's see. So, one of the problems that we have is when we have so many plastic bags, they tend to go into the ocean. And as you can see, a turtle, for instance, here, doesn't know the difference between a plastic bag and a jellyfish, and jellyfish is part of their main source of diet. As it is right now, the US alone will put 100 billion bags in a year alone, just to throw it away. And we use 12 million barrels of oil just to make those bags that we throw away. So one of the things that we can do is get on the bandwagon with a lot of the cities and countries that are already there. Kenya is one of the countries with the strongest penalties. Sit down, Will. Sit down. They have the strongest penalties where the law, as of 2017, gives anybody a $38,000 fine and 4 years in jail if they're found using single-use plastics in their business. Also, there's other cities that are banning single-use plastic, including cutlery and bags. So those are one of the things that we can do, as well as supporting the other organizations that are helping clean up the ocean. And last but not least, one of the things that we can do just for ourselves in preventing this from happening is recycle. Because when, like for instance, 4Ocean goes through and when they go through and pick up the trash, what they find the most common is recyclable items. I'm not really sure what the recyclability of cigarette butts are, but they do find a lot of those. But it goes from anything from plastic bags, plastic bottles, all the way up to cutlery and food wrappers. So these are all things that we can just simply put into a recycling bin. So, in conclusion, the Earth is not going to do well if we continue on a path of using single-use plastic, simply because it has nowhere to go. What tends to happen is that plastic will go into nano bits of it, where it's ingested by animals, and the animals tend to feel full and then starve themselves because they think that they have eaten, but yet they have not. Which is one of the common problems that happens, as well as it shows up on our shores and in our water. And at this point right now, science is trying to figure out what happens when it becomes nano, to the point that our water filtration system can't filter it out of our water, and we ingest it. And it starts to affect our circuit systems in our body. So what we can do is just to support those that are out there doing it and to recycle. That's it.